Hi, my name is Matt Rezac, owner of Leatherpunk.com. You may not have a stud setting machine in your house, but that's okay. Today we're going to show you how to set studs on a leather wristband using a few simple tools and techniques. Let's get started. Okay, here we are. We're going to show you how to properly set studs onto leather. We're going to take all the mystery out of how to set studs onto leather. It's not actually that difficult, but it is time consuming. I'm going to show you the techniques today, and before we get started, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the leather that you use. Make sure you're using a semi-rigid or stiffer leather. The reason for this is when you go to pierce the leather with the stud will actually cause a wrinkle or a crimp, and that's something that we definitely want to avoid. The only two tools that I use to set studs by hand are this steel rod, it's about 3 inches long, and this awl. Now let's talk about the studs. There are a lot of different quality of studs out there. The cheaper studs are going to be a nickel-coated steel. The nickel will flake off very easily, the steel will rust. I prefer to use chrome-plated brass. Brass doesn't rust, chrome stays on for a lot longer. And if you're going to go to the trouble of hand tooling these studs, you might as well get the better quality studs. They're not very much more expensive. The next thing I always like to have is a few scraps of leather. That way I can pierce through the wristband and not damage my tool. Okay, so we're going to be using a 2-inch wide leather wristband, and we're going to make a 3-row pyramid studded wristband. We're using 3/8 diameter pyramid studs. So we're going to set our first stud. And I always like to set the first stud at the beginning of the middle row. Take a stud, glance over it, make sure the stud prongs, that's the tips of the stud, make sure that these stud prongs are straight. Starting with the middle row, score the leather with the stud. Push lightly, then using your awl, perforate the leather. Churn the leather around and perforate it again. Then churn it back around and perforate it one more time. Insert the stud. Fold the prongs. Repeat the process on each opposing side. It's that easy. There you go. Alright, so that's pretty much it. You can see we've got the 3 rows started. It's not perfect, but it gives you a good idea of the technique that you can use to set these by hand and turn something like this into something like this. My name is Matt Rezac, owner of Leatherpunk.com. Thanks for joining me.